And we are live and late. It's okay. We were just arguing about stagflation. So it is. We're not going to. I promise we won't talk about the pink elephant, but I'm thinking about it now. So Joe, it's going to be a huge session, mate. We're going to talk about the RBA and are they going to drop an emergency bazooka and absolutely send rates to the floor? No, we're not going to do that. Sorry for stalling your party, but no, it's going to be a huge negotiation. But first, we're going to have a macroeconomic update, a quick one, and then we're going to talk to, well, how do you find deals? Because I think that's super important, and the thing that people are struggling with day in, day out to find these deals. Because if you're sitting on realestate.com waiting for that to come to you, you may be struggling. And then we'll talk about how to negotiate and save yourself thousands, tens of thousands, including a sneaky pest and building sort of thing. So stay tuned for that. But Joe, how are you going? What's happening?
Hey, I'm fantastic. I love this. I love property negotiation. It is one of my favorite topics. It's kind of like you can be the best data scientist in the world. You can identify the best suburb in the place. You go, you get the boots on the ground. You inspect it. It's the absolute best deal. And then you can overpay by $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 because you dropped the ball on the negotiation piece. So I think that negotiation is one of those things that I guess just to make people feel a little bit more comfortable, you're not born with it. No one is born to get rejected 100 times. So just know that these skills and these tactics and these things that we're talking about are all learnable skills that you can take advantage of. But man, I'm pumped. We're going to go through pretty in depth the negotiation process, the property purchasing process, and how to secure incredible deals without falling for the agent's bullshit, because there's a lot of that. But how are you, mate? How are you going?
Good. I hadn't had myself a nap, so we're disclosing I'm mid-30s now. So you got to get into that to get the fire. But no, you didn't tell me that we were going in depth, man. I only went surface. So we're gonna have to. I can do it though, and we can both do it off the top of our hats, because I've bought over 50 deals. I was looking at the other day, and you've bought over $100 million worth of property. So, and this is the blueprint, the step by step that we're talking to. So I'm excited, Joe. Are you going for your runs, mate? I'm going to hold you accountable live. You keeping fit? Mate, keeping well?
You were while you were sleeping. I was running 4Ks. So
awesome. I like it. That's what we like to hear. So for those who don't know, I think I've probably nailed your intro, but you're going to intro me first, Joe. You go for me first. So.
Oh, okay. I'll give you. Those of you that don't know who Jeff is, Jeff Miles. He is the CEO and co-founder of Oz Property Investors and Level Up Property, previously a mortgage broker in his life. How many loans did you write in a?
It's not so easy going first. So I wrote 20 million in a year, 10 million in a quarter. And that was in some of the toughest times during the Royal Commission. So it was hard to sort of get that across. Renovator and property developer, multi-million-dollar portfolio owner. So Joe, I should just intro myself.
Are you doing your own intro, mate? No, but what I like about you is you're very much on the finance space. You're very much in the numbers and the weeds of it. So you understand, like, the property game is about finance. It's about numbers. It's about getting your loans. It's about structuring your deals. It's about making sure all of that stuff. The bricks and mortar, not as important, believe it or not. It's not about actually the asset. It's about the finance side. It's the finance piece and that's where all the newbie investors get stuck with. So that is Jeff's expertise and where he comes in, and obviously bought a large amount of deals, done developments, got his own great portfolio. And mate, that's Jeff Miles.
Well done, Joe. So pretty well. I'll give you a B on that one. I'll aim for an A. But you are 15. You've got over 15 years in sales, research, negotiation. Property is your passion. So you're the active property portfolio investor. You've got a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, and you've had that passion for property. You thought you wanted to be a real estate agent, and you landed up in Oz Property Investors as Australia's largest property Facebook group. And you are now you and your team are helping hundreds of Australians secure deals, 100 million plus of deals secured. So, with that blueprint, you've now helped create Level Up Property. So I think that's a little bit better. Each time we'll slight improvement, the slight edge, mate. So 1% better each time. So first off, we're going to take, so how's everybody feeling out there now that there's that talk of, so if you're excited, drop us a money or a fire in the, like, let us get excited, show us some love and drop some comments. Like, what's your favorite negotiate? Are you a low baller? Are you a kind of walk away sort of tactic? But I want to know how's everybody's feeling out there in the property space. But I will quickly share what's going on with the RBA and their rates, and then we'll crack on to our, sorry, go.
The other point to mention is that it's just me and Jeff here. There's no other guest. So I want this to be more involved with, you know, the audience and you guys and stuff like that. So you got a question? Chuck it in
questions or concerns or feedback or comments, send that one to Joe. But first off here, so what am I looking at? We're looking at the RBA rate cash rate tracker when it loads. So has it uploaded for today? It has uploaded. Here we go. We're talking about wow, crazy. It's now gone up. They're now talking up a 77% chance of a 0.75% rate cut. I haven't looked at this.
What am I looking at, Jeff? What am I looking at?
Okay.
What the hell's this thing?
So as of, so we'll go down a bit further. So we're talking.
No, what's this program? What's this website?
This is I'll drop this in the comments. So this is the RBA cash rate tracker. So what this is, as we talk about here, this indicates market expectations of the official cash rate. So you imagine people throwing money at the screens back in the 80s and 90s, putting their money where their mouth is, where the bond traders expect that the RBA cash rate, official cash rate, is going to go. So this isn't your bank economist sitting in their ivory tower. These are the people that used to be in the pits, kind of throwing money and putting their money. If they get this wrong, they will lose money from where they're putting this. So I look at, and this is not always right, of course, this is not financial advice, but it's been mostly right the last 12 to 18 to 24 months and even beyond that. So what this will tell you is this is like reading the tea leaves. This is like your magic 8-ball to give you that indication as to where the interest rate may likely go. So now they're saying, though, that there's a 70%, this is a prediction as to where it may go based on people putting money. So they're saying there's a 77% expectation of a decrease to a 0.75% cut. That's, man, this is crazy. This is insane. Like, if they were to do this, like, look at this, and they're now saying that at the end of this year that they're going to get to a 2.75. So that is a 1.5 cash rate cut from where we're sitting now. So we're talking 4 or 5, or maybe not 4 or 5, but at least a 4 or 5.25% cash rate cut. So that's, you're saying they're almost cutting every meeting from now till the end. So, man, that's we're breaking news here almost.
Yeah,
not breaking.
Almost.
I didn't know that. I expected a 0.5, and now they're saying 0.75 next meeting in 6 weeks.
That's massive. And the thing is that, like, the reason why there's so much noise around rates and what this stuff means is I have a loan, and we got a reduction by 1%, right? It's $1 million loan. 1% is $10,000 of that loan. So if you get a 2%, that's $20,000 on your loan. I've got some of the predictions from the bank. CBA anticipates the RBA will implement a 0.2 cut in 25, starting in February. Oh, that's an older one. That was before the tariffs. So what are these tariffs? Like, I know you're not expert tariffs, and this is the funny thing about this tariff thing. No one knew what the hell a tariff was. And now there's all these experts out there, and even we're bloody talking about tariffs and what it means. But how does this affect the Australian property market? Like,
I personally don't foresee the main way it impacts it is the Australian economy. So, I mean, you saw things like and this is not the global financial crisis, and I was only coming out of uni then. So, global financial events the major impact, they're going to impact the macro economy. So what that means is people may start to lose their jobs if our gross domestic product, which is how much money we're producing as an economy, if that sort of dries up, then employers, the average sort of mum and dad running a business or your bigger business out there says, look, sorry, I need to cut costs because I can't afford to have somebody there at the front desk greeting you. So they'll start to say, okay, unemployment will increase, which then sort of has potentially a flow-on effect to the Australian economy and the Australian property, which is Australian property dominates. We got banks, bricks, and digging out of the ground. Those are the three sort of core pillars of the Australian economy. So Australian property, and that then comes down to the micro level. You look at supply and demand. So I don't foresee a significant at the individual level. Yes, if you lose a job, you may sort of struggle to keep sort of paying the mortgage. That's probably the biggest impact. So if it's job unemployment increasing. So that's my take on it. I don't foresee a significant impact. But the Australian economy, there may be some job cuts coming. Unemployment will go up. If inflation doesn't go down, then you may sort of see stagflation. And then who knows what the Reserve Bank of Australia does in that situation. And stagflation would be bad if that happened.
Yeah. Well, all this kind of talk means is the Australian economy is going to have to do something to generate and stimulate business growth and move the economy, which means that they have to lower interest rates. So they're even thinking about doing an emergency meeting for interest rates. I don't think they're going to do that based on these tariffs. I don't think they have enough information. But what it essentially means, what I foresee in the next 18 to 24 months, interest rates are going to drop by 2%. Which is absolutely massive. And if rates drop by 0.25%, that means in general, you have $15,000 more in borrowing capacity, right? So if you do that 15, all of a sudden, everyone's got bigger borrowing capacities.
Assuming they keep their job, I suppose, which is hopefully everybody, no, but and that's why, yes, generally property prices may go up if cash rate goes down and borrowing capacity increases, but all other things being equal. What I would say though is it's just interesting because Trump could and the US could turn on a dime and say, okay, guys, we've negotiated hard enough, tariffs are all good. Back to the races. And then if they go hard on this cash rate, you could see inflation. You could see a whipsaw of the interest rate, but who knows? That's why it's very interesting that they're making these noises. But anyway, on to how to find deals, because that's what did anybody have any questions or comments on that? Because that's something that I think we need to be talking about and thinking about and not sort of FOMOing in, but just saying, okay, have a look at your situation, what it looks like. And if you're confident in what it looks like, but we want to help you here negotiate and save tens of thousands, including on the pest and building as well. But how to find those deals, because if you can't find the deal, you're not going to be able to negotiate on it, right? So you got to put your sort of don't want to put the horse before the cart, Joe. So where are we going? Talk to us.
Well, I think it's just good to chat to like what the overall process is. I was having this conversation with an investor just today, actually, and it's talking about like property strategy. And the way property strategy works is you do it, you go in a cycle, you go in a circle, and you end up rechecking your strategy every single time you go ahead and buy a property, right? So you can build out an elaborate 20, 30-year property plan, right? Using all of the data and everything, which we do, of what the goal is. But the thing is, things are going to change. So what's the most important thing about property strategy is what does this next property need to be to allow me to get into the next one? And then when you get this next one, you ask the exact same question so you're not screwing yourself over from that side of things. So I guess what I wanted to point out on here is just to give people a bit of context to how all of this stuff works. So essentially you start at the beginning, you create a property strategy. That property strategy is my 30-year plan and how these next couple of properties fit within it. And yes, I'm going to achieve my ultimate goal of $150,000 of passive income. After you've done your property strategy, you then create your property plan. That is, what does this next property need to be to allow me to get into the next one? Then you select the suburbs that fit that criteria. What does this brief need to be? And then you start searching those areas. So you'll pick 3 to 5 areas and you become area experts on those. And then this is where we talk about the on-market, off-market deals. So what we're going to chat to today is the negotiation process. And the negotiation process is kind of broken down into the purchasing. Actually, I'm going to jump out. Well, actually, before I jump out, I'll just finish off before we talk about negotiation. I think it's just worthwhile finishing this. So we then look for deals. You then call up the agent, have a conversation about the property. You do phase 1 due diligence. You then inspect the property. You then call the agent again. We then have stage 2 due diligence. Does it pass? Then you need to secure the property. You make an offer. You sign a conditional contract, and then we do the pest and building renegotiation. So that's an important point. And then you end up unconditional, preparing for settlement, organizing tenancy, finish, restart, all over again when you're ready to go for that next property. But essentially, sorry, any questions on any of that? Sorry, Joe.
There have been some good questions come through, and I'm throwing the bonus show. I'm going to give you a bit of a framework, or a bit of a process as to how to find more deals, because I think that's the thing that people are struggling with. I even hear word on the street that some professionals may be getting to struggle to get real estate agents to pick up the phone. And it's just just interesting that people are, and yes, it's not easy. Like particularly in a hot market, like how do you actually generate those deals? And I'm sure you've got some gold nuggets and golden gems to drop on that as well. What I wanted to, and we'll get to that. So you're going to talk about tennis, but I want to say about this. So should a seller hold off on selling? What does that mean? I would. That is a good question, Moon. Is that in property to the moon, or are we talking Bitcoin moon? Like what kind of moon are we talking here? But no, I wanted to say my thoughts on this are, if you're selling, you should really establish the reason why you're selling and have those conversations. Yes, you may. The problem of holding off is there's too many moving parts to say it is area dependent, because if you're in a hotter market, yes, interest rate cuts may see a bit of an extra bounce, and you may get that. But if you've already achieved if you can achieve the type of price, I wouldn't sort of necessarily hold out, but you have to assess the market. Speak to your real estate agent. A real estate agent, of course, is going to say, oh, look, do I need a haircut? Yes, you do need a haircut right now. So put it on the market. So just take that with somewhat of a grain of salt, but they'll have some key insights. What are your thoughts on this one, Joe?
Yeah, should you hold? It depends on what it is, right? And what's the purpose? If it's like, I need to sell this PPR to buy my new PPR, well, you're going to be buying. If your PPR is nicer and a better asset, the next one, then you might actually be struggling to get into that one even more. And then the prices move up even more, and then it's even harder. So it really, it depends. Situation. Yep.
Should we talk to tennis now? I mean, there's heaps
let's talk to tennis. The whole reason I got this tennis analogy is because what I want to do is explain the property purchasing process, because it's so simple. People just overcomplicate buying a property, and I get it. Like, you get lost in the jargon. There's a whole heap of paperwork. You second guess all of the decisions. So I just think about it like this: tennis. The first offer is like a serve in a tennis match. So right now, the way it works is the ball is out there in the ether, right? The vendor is on the other side. I should have had a net here, really. The vendor is on the other side of the net, and the agent's taking inquiries. They're feeling out the competition. They're building up more heat in the property market for the property. The moment that you submit an offer is the moment that action needs to be taken, right? So you're forcing the vendor to make a decision when you put forward an offer. So the reason I'm mentioning this is, the faster that you act, the better opportunity that you will get. The more time the agents can bring up inquiries and chat to people and get inspections and build up this heat for the deal, the less likely you are to have a great opportunity there. So that's just kind of how it works. And when you submit an offer, there's three things that can happen. They can accept it, they can reject it, or they can renegotiate. Like, it's as simple as that. But the longer the ball is in play and out there floating around, is the bigger risk that you're taking. You need to be the one to take control with specific words, with specific scripts and stuff like that, to be able to get the ball moving and get the pace going. So it's reversing the fear of loss. It's something that you've heard us say quite a lot. But yeah, the reason I have these slides up to just not show you a bloody tennis racket is there's 4 phases of the property purchasing process. That's it. There is offer, exchange, unconditional exchange, and settlement. There are only really 3 opportunities, 3.5 opportunities actually, to negotiate. One, when we're chatting with the agent, putting forward our offer. When the property and then it moves to exchange. So we're having that initial conversation, having the negotiation, and then when it's under contract and unconditional, then there's a little bit of pre-settlement inspection.
Yes. Getting a bit ahead of ourselves. We're getting to negotiation. I wanted to the entree was how to find those deals, but that's okay, Joe. It's all good.
Okay. Let's just talk about what the process is, and then now we know the process. How do we find these deals? So
I want to go back to your analogy on tennis, though, because I think that is something that applies across all aspects of property investing. Because here we go.
This is your offer.
You even got a net there, which is the offer. No, but it even applies when you go to your broker, which I think I always bring it back to broking. I love it. Or even your accountant. If you are going for your next property deal, you start off with, and it's like, okay, you need to get that finance loan approved. So that is a game of tennis. Your accountant submitting those tax returns to make sure you can borrow that money. It's a game of tennis. So ultimately, you are responsible for this. You can drive, and even in conversations, in negotiation, you need to be the one who's in consistent and constant communication with the agent, because otherwise, if you don't know where the process is at, it's likely the deal could be sold elsewhere. So you and I both, I mean, not too many times, we've sort of learned the hard way a couple of years ago, and even more than a couple of years ago, you sort of see if you're not keeping, so that's probably a big tip that I've got for players at home, new players. Make sure that you are communicating when you're going to be getting back and where the other sort of deals are at, and that's a little bit of a thing. So stay watching for that, because that is going to be a key part of this process. Making sure that you have multiple deals on the run, because you will anyway. Ultimately, you are not going to be too emotionally invested in one deal. There's one you'll have a preference on, and then you'll have 3 or 4 deals ready to go as well. So sort of seal that. But yeah, tell us about the rest of the process, Joe, or have we done that bit? Am I getting on?
Yeah, okay. Just high level process. Negotiate price and terms with the real estate agent. Obviously, this is the offer stage. The deal is open for anyone. So if you are still waiting, if you just keep waiting and not moving and making action, then you're not going to get anywhere. But essentially, an offer is made up of price, deposit amount, clauses and conditions, and then settlement terms. So when you put forward something of that, you then are forcing them to act. And then they have the choice to either accept the offer, renegotiate the offer, or they're going to stall and not get back to you and delay things. And that's where you then start hounding the agent to be able to do this. So you need to they're going to try and shop your offer around. So that's one of the biggest things actually you see out there in the market with new investors is, hey, I just submitted my offer. It's been 3 days. I don't want to look too keen, and I want to wait. I want to see where he's at. But what's happening? I just don't know. And the answer is they've got your offer. They know they have you sealed and delivered, ready to go, and they can take that money. But they're like, great, I've got a 550. I've got a 550. Anyone got a 555? What have you got? Oh, sorry, look, I've already got an offer above that price. And then they're shopping your offer around to get the absolute best, the best price.
Yeah.
So
while we're on that point, Joe, what are the kind of questions, and I've got a few questions as well, but what are the questions you ask to understand if there is legitimately other offers on the table?
What other offers have you got?
I mean, but I've got 14 other offers, Joe.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to do a role play. We try these bloody role plays all the bloody.
So in that situation, the way it would typically go, and the answer is to say, I would say, okay, great, that's good. You got other offers. What do those terms look like? How far down the process are you with that? Are you going to sell it tomorrow? Or are you waiting? Like, if you've got that many offers, why hasn't the deal been? When is this deal going to sell? And if they say, it'll sell in 2 or 3 days' time. I don't know. What is the reason it's taking that time I would sort of be a little bit skeptical if an agent's telling me if they've got that many offers, unless there's a very good reason. So you want to understand the longer the agent's story is, if they're very short and sharp in their answers, I found typically that they're not, they may be sort of concealing something a little bit. Otherwise they have to, that's what I've found personally. I'm not saying that's always going to be the case, but whereas if an agent's, if they have to think about all that story, they're not going to go to that thing. It is probably just a reality. But there are definitely tells.
Yeah. And also, I guess that's kind of what happens. You'll have a conversation with them and you'll start to kind of test like what is great. Well, what are the offers? What are they looking like? Okay, cool. So one of the things that I love to do is great. You've got an offer, and then once we start going down the line of the conversation, great. Well, my offer's around that like 545, for instance, and that's legitimate.
What are the terms?
Yeah. Legitimately, that's where my offer is kind of at. I can probably go to 555, to be honest. But hey, my offer's at 545. Am I wasting my time here? Am I like? I guess I'm just trying. I've got to have a chat with my wife. I've got to lock it down, and we got to get the contract reviewed. I'm willing to give you an offer for 545, but what's the point of wasting our time together here? Because you've got other offers that are better than my offer. And the answer is going to be, oh, well, look, it's totally worth doing it. Do it. And then it's like, so you've got other offers that are greater than this offer. What happened to those? So it's a bit of a test that you can do with some agents.
Yeah. And then I would go down, if I'm getting that sort of response, which that to me, it's like a deer in the headlights. I'm like, okay, I in all transparency, yes, I see value though at 530. And that's where I'm going to submit my offer. Is that going to get it done today? And then you almost somewhat go in for the kill. And then you say, yeah, of course I'm going to get the conveyancer, review the contract, all that sort of jazz. But no, Joe, I really want to share how people can generate more deals, because then we can get into the juicy negotiation things.
Yeah. But okay. Well, the process is valuable, but I think the juicy stuff is worth the squeeze. While you're bringing that stuff up, the other thing to mention is there's kind of two schools of thoughts when it comes to putting forward offers to agents. School of thought number one: act fast, move quickly. You may not have done all of the due diligence, right? You may not have done a comprehensive deep dive into the place, but that then allows you to secure the deal. Let me just bring my screen up. Once you have the deal under contract, right? Before your offer, everyone has access to the ball. Once you've submitted an offer, that offer then needs to be swung back to you, and then swung back to you. You then take it, put that on a contract. You then swing the ball back to them. They then, sorry, you put forward an offer. They accept. Yes, I'm happy to take you 545 on a 30-day settlement on a 10% deposit with a 14-day pest and building and a 14-day finance. Fantastic. They put it on the contract. You get it reviewed by your conveyancer. Actually, there's an opportunity of how you lose a shitload of deals is a slow conveyancer. So anytime you're dealing with a legal team or conveyancing team or solicitor, they are experts at reading these contracts. It should take them 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do it. So no, maybe not, maybe 10 minutes. But send it off to them and say, hey, I need this done ASAP. Let's rock and roll. Otherwise, we're going to lose this deal. Speed kills on deals. So you then get it on the contract. The first person to sign it is the buyer. So you sign it first. We then hit the ball back to them. And then that's when they have the choice. What do I do with this? Because you've put pressure on them, right? I'm a buyer. I've got another offer. I've got another deal that I'm going to go with. So if you don't sign this, I'm just going to walk away, because again, the ball is still, the ball's in their court, but you can walk at any one point in time. Once the contracts have exchanged, you have ultimate control. They cannot back out of this deal. But if you're strategic in your approach and you're buying in the state and you understand the state that you're buying in, you can have a lot of control over this deal and renegotiate that deal if it needs be. So the first school of thought is move fast, get shit done, get the deal under contract, and then maybe renegotiate and pull out of the deal. And number two is doing the full due diligence up front and then putting forward a strategic offer that's going to allow you to do that. Now, if you get very good at due diligence, you can do it fast and you can take advantage of both situations. But this is the beauty of control. So get the property under contract as fast as you can and don't stress out. If you can pull out of the deal. If you can't pull out of the deal, in most states, we have cooling off periods. So South Australia, we have a 2-day cooling off period, 14-day pest and building.
5 days. Victoria, 3 days. But you need to be careful, Victoria, because it's 3 days from Yeah, I think it's 3 days from the date of the contract, isn't it?
Date
So
of the contract.
not when it's executed, which is which I was like, oh, that's very tricky, because what happens if the vendor doesn't decide to sign it for a day or two? Then how important is friendly?
Through our ramblings, Aiden has come up with a great question. How important is it to be friendly with agents as opposed to going in hard and firm? Is there a good balance between the two? What do you reckon, Jeff?
Yes, always balance. Ironically, I've just said always. No, for me, I used to. I'll talk to some of my lived experience for this, because I've bought properties of varying levels of experience throughout my kind of buying career. Sort of before we started Oz Property, we were buying a place down here in Wollongong, and I went in sort of very buttoned up Barry, and said I was like, no, you're not getting any information out of me. I was like, agents were asking me, am I finance approved? And I was like, none of your damn business. And that's kind of where you're going hard and firm, and saying, well, maybe that's not hard and firm. Hard and firm, I would believe, is saying, okay, going in hard and saying, no, take my offer or leave it. Which to me, doing that, you're going to burn. You may sort of get some headway with agents that are a little less experienced. They may just say, oh, look, they're just desperate. They've got commission breath. They just want to get the deal done. If any agent who's been around the block more than once or twice, they're going to see that and say, well, look, I don't care that you want to lowball me or sort of strong arm me. You want to. So I think it's important to be professionally, I suppose, going professional and structured and calculating, and I suppose not calculating it from a manipulating perspective, but I think going in hard and firm like a bullet of China is probably not going to get you too far in most deals.
I agree to a degree. I agree with what you're saying there. When dealing with real estate agents, they are just people too. All they're trying to do is a job exactly like you try and do. And there are people trying to strong arm them and be rude and be pricks. And you're not that person, right? This is a business to business transaction. You're building a business empire, and that's what you got to do. So they have the supply, you have the demand. So it's just two professionals trying to work out what's going on with this situation and if we can buy it from the other vendor, right? So that's how you need to treat the conversation with the real estate agent. Exactly how you would treat someone in any other services business, in any other negotiation that you're doing. Don't be a prick. Be firm. I'm not saying don't be a pushover, but you just need to be, like of nonchalance, right? You have done this 1,000 times. I've bought many properties. This is just a part of my process. I'm casual. I'm unconcerned. I'm indifferent. I just have a couple of questions, but I'm ready to pull the trigger if the price is right. The goal,
finance approved, ready to take action. If it matches up, let's get it done today if we can.
Well, the goal here. The goal here is to be at the top of the list. You need to be the top buyer. And the way to do that is to exactly what Jeff just said. Hey, just letting you know, I'm an investor. I'm finance approved, ready to rock. Where's this vendor at? Like, are we able to get a deal done today? I'm really looking to make a move on a couple of deal. On a deal. This deal is our preference. So you've got to introduce saying that you're not just shopping this deal around. This deal is actually our preference. Everything that I see on the photos look really good. So compliment the property. One of the things is there anything outside of the photos that I should be aware of? And that's going to give you a little bit more, I
call that the information gathering sort of part, because there's a couple of stages to the negotiation, which we talk about, and we outline that in Level Up. That is the step-by-step process to give you that confidence, because this is something that we've been able to teach, or Joe's been able to teach as well, many sort of his people. So I think it's something that you can learn. I wanted to bring up a question there's been so many great questions. I love the engagement that people keep them coming, people. Because David's asked this twice, and sorry to interrupt your flow, Joe, but he said, curious, how many offers do you put in typically? It'd be hard to remember how many offers I put in until you get an acceptance on one. What's your typical conversion rate? I wish we'd track that, but I could pluck a number out of the air. I know a rough kind of estimate of how many I've accepted based on how many properties I bought. But I can answer that, Joe, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll just pull up the numbers of our last quarter.
Okay, all right.
So we would look at 100. Yeah. Okay. You talk and I'll find the numbers.
You find the numbers, because otherwise you're gonna.
No,
So
you talk.
my articulate thing, and maybe not that articulate. I would say that I'm probably about a 1 in 10 at least. Maybe actually no, maybe not even 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 20. So I would say somewhere between that sort of 5% I'm buying. So you have to look at a lot of deals and keeping in mind. I want to talk about that deal flow framework, how you actually generate those deals, because if you're only seeing the ones on realestate.com, you really need to get beyond that, because if you're only seeing those, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg, really. I'm not saying you should only buy off markets, which some buyers agents talk to that. They are good. They can convert. But I would say typical conversion, so about 5% roughly. That's where I'm sort of at. So
that's very good.
And
that's actually very specific. Yeah, you got we're at 4%. So we have different phases of the transaction, right? Just like I said, there's 3 phases to the purchasing process. There's finding a deal, which says, great, this deal ticks all the boxes. It's got phase 1 due diligence. Then you inspect the property. And then you see, oh, actually it doesn't do it. So it goes from 100 deals in, and then 15% make it to that inspection phase. And then of those 15, we then have 5% close. So 4.6% close. So 100 deals in, 4.6 deals out. That kind of stack up. So expect those sorts of numbers when you get better at it and knowing. But the problem is there's going to be so many deals that you look at that just aren't going to do it. So when you're starting out, just go 100. I've got to look at 100 deals. I've got 3 to 5 markets that I'm tracking. I'm tracking suburb number 1, number 2 in let's just throw it like
Frankston, Seaford.
Yeah. Okay. Frankston, Seaford. I've got these 2 areas, and these are the pockets I look at. These are the pockets I don't look at. So whenever a deal comes up, is it on a main road? You run it through a phase 1 due diligence process. Main roads, bushfires, floods, easements, encumbrances, all of that kind of stuff. And then, I feel like I've gone a little bit too deep with this. And then, so look at 100, and you're going to get 1 out of that.
That's a pretty safe assumption. If you're buying 1 in 10 properties, you're probably buying too many. You may not be. There may be something you're missing. So, I do. Francis has put in a cracking question, and I think that we're sort of going a bit back to fronty. What about saying, "Hey, I've got pre-approval. I'm definitely buying. What have you got coming up? Or have you got anything that's been sitting for a while?" I love this kind of. I haven't actually thought so much about asking the second bit. I mean, this is how you actually, and Francis, sounds like you're ready to buy some properties. But she's the way that is a perfect way of doing it. And funnily enough, the amount of real estate agents we've both spoken to, and they've said, no, I haven't got anything. And throughout the conversation, they'll actually sort of think about that one that they've got sort of on the books that's about to come on. And so you just sorry.
The point of this is one thing to mention, exactly like what Jeff said, they open up, is they don't have anything coming up. You just called them about 123 Smith Street. They're going to sell you 123 Smith Street. So they don't have anything coming up. It's only when you start saying, great, well, look, I see that you've got an amazing deal here. I'm actually not interested in this 4-bed, 2-bath that's at $800,000. I'm actually more in the market for a 3-bed, 1-bath. So I saw you. You're an expert agent, dude. You're crushing it. You've got all of the signboards. I drive down the street. There's nothing but you. So I thought I'd build a relationship with you. So yeah. What have you got coming up? Have you got any stuff? Nah, not really. What about any 3-beds? And they're like, oh, actually, I've got a presentation. Well, have you got any presentations lined up for any 3-beds? And then actually, shit, yeah. Well, the thing is, just getting out of the script phase, agents need to have buyers when they go to a listing presentation. So if you can, qualified buyers that are ready to buy. So some vendors, people that own the house, like, hey, Mr. Agent, I need to sell now. Like, there is need to sell people. And they're like, well, look, I can't go through a campaign. That's how you get off market deals, right? Constantly checking in with the agents to build the relationship so that you are on that list of great deals. So they'll go to the agent. Actually, Mr. Vendor, here is a text message that I've got from this person. It says 3-bed, 2-bath. I will pay up to $800,000 if it makes sense, blah, blah, blah. Your property is probably worth about 810 if we took it to the market and did all of the blah, blah. But this guy's max budget is 800,000. Would you consider selling if you could get a deal done today? Yes, let's do that. Great. They're going to sign their piece of paper. They're going to give you a call and you're going to then get it going. It saves them paying $9,000 in marketing anyway. So you can do those type of things.
Yeah. You do have to be a little bit careful those off markets, but that's probably for another conversation. Like just the reason why I see you have to be careful off markets is you have to be that area expert. And that is a whole can of worms that we're not going to go too far into. But basically, long story short, just make sure you have been researching that area and understand the pockets and why they're giving you it at that price. And I would also definitely get an inspection done as long because you never want to trust trust an agent. You don't want to trust the walkthrough they've given you. They've sort of flicking around the place. So make sure you get your own.
I made a great video about a year ago actually now, and it was one of my first renovation deals, and it was literally the agent dodging all of the massive problems. So this is an agent, here's a massive problem, and this is an agent's walkthrough video, right? Dodges it completely. So you need to have someone that is independent and trusted on the ground, where they go, cool, here's all the situation, here's actually the problem, but also here's the rest of the property, so that you can then make an assessment of the place. But another top tip, when you are inspecting a property, do not yell out, oh my gosh, there's a massive problem here. Or don't have your inspector do that either, because that's then a negotiation piece that you can come back. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that when we did the pest, like we had the walkthrough, I didn't realize there was all those cracking in the tiles. Well, you actually brought it up to my attention and on the day. So how did you not realize that? Oh, shit. Yeah, I did. Yeah, because you were buying it under the assumption of that was there. Yeah, I was. Okay.
As long as it's not really blatant and obvious. If there's a huge kind of, I don't know, if there's a huge purple wall in the back thing, I mean, try negotiating that anyway. But yeah, if you try and sort of say, oh no, I want. Well, yeah, but I'm just trying to come up with an example on the spot. But what I want to, so I'm going to tell you how to sort of pick up. These are some of the tips that I've used over the years to really sort of dive into, increase the deal flow, because the more deals you're seeing, the greater quality you're likely to sort of end up buying. Otherwise, if you're purely, so you have to look beyond realestate.com or Domain. They're the main sort of portals. If you're purely relying on some of that to come up, they're useful when you're starting in an area to get a feel for, and we could go through and tell you which agents, and I will actually tell you which agents to consider buying off. So stay tuned for that. But look, I mean, this is a bit of a long shot doing these ones. The community Facebook forums, and you've got a story from that lady from Perth who's still trying to sell you that deal and now has increased her price 100K. So you need to be a little bit careful with those direct to seller, but they can be opportunities as well. The thing I've found really pikes an agent's interest, and a lot of, even when I haven't been, sorry, man, really pike their interest. Like, what was that? No, you pike your interest. Like, really, you start listening more intently, Joe.
Am I the only one? Am I the only one?
No.
Okay, go on. So let the comments decide what that means, if that's the correct way of saying it.
Hey, well, how do you say it then? Piqued your interest. Is it piqued? Piqued or piked? I don't know. Okay. So whatever it is. So, and I've even when I haven't been acting in this sort of role, is you sort of start to hear the real estate agent saying, hey, look, are you actually a buyer's agent? And that's when I'm like, okay, they kind of know that you're leveling. And I've had done deals where I'm not one of those. And it's just then it's in the type of quality of conversation. So the thing that I sort of throw in there pretty early, I'm like, I'm finance approved, ready to go. I know the jurisdiction. I've spoken to my conveyancer settlement agent. I know exactly what. So with this property, tell me more about this deal, and then just shut up and let them speak. That's what I find. You start to sort of automatically you've got their attention. And then I've noticed I've not done that in conversation. I've A/B tested it. And the amount of, I can't say for sure, but I get a lot more sort of pre-markets come up when I start having those type of quality conversations, and just show that you're not a tie kicker. Finance approved, ready to go. I know what price I'm going to pay for a deal. So yeah, and I know what I'm looking for. So I've called you up about this one. It's not quite ticking the brief, and here's why it's not. Here's why it doesn't, and give them feedback as well. So start to build that relationship, feel that, and that's feedback for the vendor. The other thing as well, and Joe said as well before, speed kills. So, and keep it consistent. So week in, week out, have those conversations, send the text, and they'll get back to you and say, nothing yet, mate. But I might have one coming up. And that's when you say, okay, cool. When is it coming up? Or even give them a call and start to rebuild that relationship. And that's unfortunately, there's no AI that can probably do that. I mean, probably can, but not as effectively.
No, yeah. There's no negotiation AI, unfortunately. It's very much a human sport, this negotiation piece. You get better at it as you practice, but it's definitely a learnable skill. You just need to say the right things and sound like the right person that is serious and wants to move quickly. I want to, do we want to go through a script and kind of what it sounds like?
We probably should. We should throw to our first sponsor for the evening because we've got 2 now. So, but then stay tuned, and we've got some great questions. So keep those coming, and we'll show you a script as well.
Everywhere you look, someone else is making money in property except for you. Your mate, he just bought a house. It's already gone up $100,000. There's some bloke on Facebook. He's bragging about pulling in a 7% rental yield. Meanwhile, you're stuck scrolling real estate and domain, confused as hell, and having no idea about where to start. Or maybe you're that mate that's got $100,000 in equity. You have a few properties under your belt, but you feel stuck. You're unsure about how to scale without over-leveraging and not knowing what the next right move is. So why does it feel like everyone else has some kind of secret that you're missing out on? It's because they do. There's a reason some people keep stacking properties while others sit on the sidelines stacking excuses. There's a reason why some investors buy under market value while others pay too much. There's a reason why investors know the hot spots before there's any heat. And there's a reason that some people build $150,000 in passive income while others just spend years thinking about it. And it comes down to knowledge. And that's exactly why Jeff Miles and I, Joe Tucker, created the Level Up Property course to hand you the exact step-by-step process that we've used to buy over $100 million worth of property in today's market. We've built Australia's largest property investment community with over 80,000 members, and we help everyday investors secure hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, all without wasting years of their life trying to figure it out the hard way. Making an uneducated decision on the biggest purchase in your life is just gambling with your future.
Stop it. Get some help.
And this isn't just another how to buy property course. Let's be clear though, this course isn't free. What? And neither should it be. This is our life's work. We've spent over 100 hours each on this course alone. Oh, babe. Okay, video number 3. Number 4 with million does... Done. We've got decades of experience, millions of dollars in deals distilled into a repeatable process that you can take away for yourself. If you're looking for free advice, there's plenty of noise out there. You can go and find that if you'd like. But if you want real, actionable, step-by-step guided process that works in today's market, then this investment is going to change everything for you. By the time that you finish this course, you will have full confidence. You'll have every tool that you need to build an amazing portfolio if you act on it, right? Which is why we have mentoring built in. So we kick you up the butt to make sure that you're kicking your goals. So the real question is, how much longer are you going to watch everyone else making money in property before you jump in and start playing the property game properly? Because the sooner you start, the sooner you start winning.
That's a good one. So Joe, the script, because this is critical. It's how you frame that conversation. And it's even you can lose the game or sort of keep playing that pretty early in the piece. So where do we start with the script, Joe? What is it? How do you frame this conversation?
Okay, so number 1, don't ask these things like a robot. You're a human. Just sprinkle these questions and things that we ask in a natural conversation. Always indicate either you're an investor. I always say I'm looking at this from an investment perspective. We already said
what can you tell me about it?
Yeah, what can you tell me about it? Exactly. Your speed kills. You're prepared to buy this property. I'm prepared to buy this property and move incredibly fast and make this happen if it's a good deal. I'm not just here to move fast on shit. It needs to make sense. Ask for the contract, like get the contract and disclosure documents for that state. So for instance, South Australia, oh, hey, Mr. Agent, we're wrapping up the conversation. Awesome. Send me, can you please send me through the contract and the Form 1? Oh, you don't have the Form 1 yet? That's absolutely fine. Just send me the contract and let me know when you get the Form 1. Do that at the end of every, well, not every call situation, depending. But that's when you do it. One other little, I don't know, ethical type thing that you've got to kind of balance yourself with. And I'm not really holding anything back here when it comes to this, is sprinkle in. Now this works, this doesn't really work from like a buyer's agent perspective, but it does work for a standalone investor. Sprinkle in that you always like to put the management through the agent if you have a good relationship with them. And obviously if they provide a great rental service. So that's one of the things that I would speak to if I was an investor looking at a new deal. Hey, actually, I'm looking at this deal. It actually stacks up. It fits in really nicely with my brief. How much do you think it'll rent for? And they'll be like, oh, well, actually our rental department gave us $550. Oh, great. You guys do rentals, do you? Oh, great. Well, look, I always like to put the rental through the property management, like the agent that we do, if we have a good relationship with them. Now, it's illegal for that to come into the back of the agent's mind, but your rental listing's worth about $2,000 to $3,000 to them. So if you are an investor and you're promising to put it through them, there might be some incentive there. Now,
I would be very cautious on the word promise. I would say considering. If we have a good relationship, or consider it 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ever one thing that I see I tell people this and they're like, yeah, guess what? I said I'd promise it to the agent and then I didn't give it to them. I'm like, well, now you're just a liar. Just say, if we have a good relationship, we can go down that path and explore. So please, yes, send me the information that you have. Now, I wouldn't commit to anything until the deal is done, because then if you don't end up going, if you say, yep, I'm not going with you as the property manager, and you haven't secured the deal, then that kind of is off the table, right? Just be smart about it. Don't give any false promises or any conflict. One thing to mention is there's a win-win. There needs to be a win for you and there needs to be a win for the vendor. You have to match your offer to what the vendor is needing in regards to their terms. So the way it kind of works is you can have price or terms, but you can't have both.
Can't have both.
Yeah. What else? Another top tip is always mention that I'm actually quite far down the line of another property. That's important because it says, oh, you're active, you're ready, you're moving, and you're good to go.
Can I share an example, Joe? A recent example of this, where I was actually, and I ended up, because people say, oh, how can you kind of actually do that? And David Oller brought up a great question about, do you have kind of multiple? Are you signing multiple contracts? And the answer to that is definitely not. You can verbally consider. Be careful about putting anything in writing, because that in some instances can be considered a formally binding offer. So just be careful on putting anything in writing. But the example I was going to share, where I was and ended up buying one of the properties, but one of the guys was like sort of back and forth with his vendor, and I said, look, I am actually, and the other agent comes back to me and said, hey, look, the vendor needs to sell this pretty quickly. And he said, what price can you get the person you're helping out with to? And I said, look, I have to have a chat with them. But they said, look, they want to sell this really quickly. If you can get this done, we can get this price. And ultimately, we didn't end up buying that second deal, but it got me across the line, I feel, with the other agent who was going to shop my deal to 10 or 15 other people because they wanted a higher price. But that gave me the option, the reversion of loss. So it actually does play out that way. Not always, like you're not always going to have an agent say, oh, look, because that had been on the market for a couple of weeks. So they really wanted and needed to sell. So to Joe's point, though, yeah, like you are going to be chasing multiple deals. And sometimes you will be put in a position where you need to make that decision, but it gives you the leverage, as Joe said.
Yeah. If I'm a standalone investor, would I put two contracts under offer? I wouldn't be doing it if it was my first property. You wouldn't be doing it? Nah, I'd be fine with it. Like if I understand the process and the way the legal process works, like you can get out of deals, like especially like in Queensland, you can.
I mean, you can. It then just comes down to, well, how many? If the one you're actually committing to, if they're both ones you crash, then you're really. I mean, it's unlikely you'll crash both. But if for whatever reason you do pest and building on one, you pull out of the other, and the pest and building on the other, that's where you're like, your name can quickly become. Real estate agents do talk, so that's where I'd be a little bit cautious. I wouldn't be as concerned from necessarily legal. Seek your legal advice on that. Make sure you're not committing, particularly in WA. But
definitely,
legally,
you can put multiple offers out, right? You can go to an open home and you inspect 4 properties. You can say, great, here's an offer, a written offer, formally put down with who I am, my terms, blah, blah, blah. Put that out there, put that out there, put that out there, put that out there. Absolutely. Go ahead and do that because nothing's locked in. Remember, the ball is out there. It's out there. No one's confirmed. You haven't signed any paper. So I would say, I wouldn't say to the agent, hey, by the way, I've just put 4 offers on 4 other properties. Great. I'm wasting my time with you. You're a waste of space.
The way that we word is we say, look, your deal is actually my preference here. Like I want to get, if we can get this done at a price that matches where I see fair value, then we'll get this done. However, I'm also getting pushed on multiple offers to make decisions. So if we can get this done in a good time or space, I'm not going to say, look, I'm going to walk away at 5 o'clock today. I don't like the deadline walk away because then what happens when 5 o'clock comes around? You're leaving yourself no sort of get out. It's like you keep it there in the back of the agent's mind, and that's the way I've sort of approached. And then that way you then sort of leave yourself the option to say, look, because you want to leave some time frames there, so there is some pressure, and you're not sort of negotiating against yourself as well. Once you've kind of you can go and buy the other deal, and that deal can fall through as well potentially.
Another thing that agents will do is kind of test your budget and what you think things are worth, and it'll just be in the inspection. Oh, great! What do you think this thing's worth? Oh, yeah, it's probably, I don't know, 800,000, something like that. So what I always try and do is steer away from budget and value. So, oh, my budget's this property's really great, but my budget's 700,000. Well, no, it's not. Like my thing is like if I'm looking at a property for 600,000. And they're like, oh, well, how much have you got to spend? I'm like, well, I've got $1 million borrowing capacity, but I'm not going to overspend on something. It's what's the thing actually worth? So it's where I see value for the property. So you just kind of got to flip that budget and value thing. Yeah.
I like this. This is a question I just talked about. Any advice about lowballing? My advice is probably don't do it. I mean, look, it's the one that everybody's like, oh, go in there and just throw some stink ball offers, like throw 15, 20, and that might work 1 in 1,000 times, and then you say, okay, but you might just burn your relationship with a lot of agents. If you're going to do it, you need to be very calculating the way that you word it. You say, okay, look, I see value of this property. Let's say it's listing for 500, and you say, if you really want to lowball, say based on what I'm seeing out there in the market, I'm seeing value in this at 4 to 420. Am I wasting my time? And if they say no, you're not wasting your time, then that way it's about then sort of letting the agent know, sort of not cautiously, but carefully, rather than saying, look, 400K is my offer. You've listed at 500. I don't care. 400, take it or leave it. I'll go and buy one down the street. I don't know how that's in some markets that might work, but what are your thoughts on this show? It's not about
it depends on the situation. Depends on quite a lot of okay, what's the situation? Does the vendor want to move? Does the vendor want to move fast? Can you get away with a sneaky offer? And what's the agent's process? Are they willing to sell the property? Do they just run best and finals? Like you'll see this all the time.
Particularly in a hot market.
In a hot market, they're just like, look, we don't have time for these offers. Actually, I can't find the comment, but Karen just posted a comment saying, oh my gosh, I just got an offer. I'm laughing right now. I just got lowballed for a deal that I have for sale. And it's like, cool. Well, if you go too low, you're not going to be taken seriously. So I would say try and stick it between, 90 to 98% of where you're going to end up, and just know your market and what things are worth. Like if the deal is ugly, needs some work, you can get away with putting on stupid offers. Like actually, Jeff, fine example is the deal that we just bought in Victoria. They wanted 500. 560. I think it was, yeah, West Melbourne, 560,000 they wanted it for, and we ended up getting it for 530. Yeah, 530,000 because it was needing a renovation and needed some work, and it's an ugly deal. They didn't have it on them. It was an off-market deal. They needed to move fast. They had some pressure. So I'm like, well, it sounds like you got a lot of you problems here. Well, I can help.
Did you actually say that, Joe? Did we say that? That was a bit cheeky.
No,
I would have said it and then be like, oh, they would have probably hung up the phone on me. No. So very circumstantial, Joe. I like the way you handle that, mate. You handle it like an accountant. I've tried to get off the fence a little bit these days and be a little bit more decisive and giving where I stand on positions to help people. But this is Gurav, and I love Gurav's just kicking goals left, right, and center. He loves it. He said, I was talking to an agent today, and his view was lowballers are repeat offenders. Gurav, though, maybe they are conditioning. Maybe he's conditioning you though, so that you don't lowball him. That's why he's like, mate. Yeah. So But what I wanted to say, and David, so many questions. Sorry, Joe. I just love. Take the questions off. Take the comments off me. David said thoughts on offer over text message. I think it comes down to how late at night you're negotiating. Because I've actually done deals over text. And it's just then the relationship you've had. Like I wouldn't go straight to the first kind of thing, just throwing an offer without having ever spoken to the agent, what sort of needs to happen. And it wouldn't be my first text either. I'd sort of just go, get to the crux and sort of understand, and then say, look, here's the terms, here's the offer. Let's make it happen tonight. I need to sort of move on other deals. So that can work. Over phone, I'm not opposed to, get it in writing, I suppose, if you are very serious about it, either via email or by text. Your thoughts on text message offers, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. I've bought so many properties over text message. It's but you have to establish that initial conversation. You need to establish that initial certainty that you're someone worth dealing with. But yeah, bought heaps of deals over text message. So if you chatted with the agent, you've got everything that you need, and you've got a couple of you're like, great, hey, Mr. Agent, yeah, we just chatted. We inspected it. We've got everything. Yeah, here's the offer. Let's go. And some agents are better with text, and sometimes you keep missing each other, right? Like you guys are everyone's got a full-time job here. We don't have time. Like it's really annoying. Communicating over text is absolutely fine. And also, you can actually negotiate really well on a text message because there's no fluff.
You can think about it as well. Like you're not so you can actually sort of think through and word it quite carefully and sort of say, well, hey, like let's where we and I find where it's effective is where you're in a negotiation, where an agent's going out to multiple kind of trying to get more listings. So just saying to an agent, hey, look, if I haven't heard by sort of 11 o'clock, I need to make some decisions myself. I'll flick you a text or give you a call and say, how are we looking? And then that way, that's the game of tennis. As Joe said, it's like, okay, well, how's the vendor thinking? And sometimes you say, yep, I've checked in the vendor. And it just shows that you're being proactive as well. If they're not reaching, you need to kind of keep them in the loop as well. If they're waiting for you to make a decision, make sure if you don't give them a time frame, because otherwise they'll move on to another vendor who's willing to make it happen. I've had that happen once or twice, unfortunately.
Yeah, a great question. Come up.
I love this.
Come up. So don't lowball. Where do you start though? Property price indicates 469 to 510. I see value below 500. Loan is 500K. So I would remove the fact that your loan is obviously you know that it's got it, but just don't ever talk to an agent about what you're kind of like. If you're like, oh, I only have 500K, that doesn't matter because it means that you can't afford the 510, and it's like what I just said before, that it's not their fault that you can't afford it.
And it also means that you may be able to buy it for 475, but they'll know that you've got to that. Why not give me, like, I need an extra 10K from you, and you've got enough. If they know that exact budget, like you see value as you've go on, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's having a conversation. So in terms of price, where's this at? Oh, well, look, obviously we got it at 469. Oh, great. Well, I guess I kind of need to really move fast on this. Like, what's the closest comparable sale that you can stack this one up against? Well, actually, there is 123 Smith Street that sold for 480. There's 135 that sold for 490. There's one that sold for 450. And there's one that sold for 520. Obviously, they're going to push the more bigger sales, but that's then going to be like, okay, cool. So those are some of the comparables. Is the seller ready to sell today? If an offer came in at the right level, would they actually be willing to sell? And then that then says, okay, great, we've got time pressure. Great. Well, then where do we need to be price wise? I mean, where I see value on this property, we need to be at the 400 and I wouldn't go in at the 500. I wouldn't say, well, where we see value is like 480,000, to be honest. From all the research that I've done, I've been, researching this area for the past 6 months, 3-bed, 2 baths, this one, but don't get into a comparable battle because you'll never win.
Yeah. The agent, you don't want to seem like you know the area better than the agent. You want to make this person. Agents do have egos. They do get rejected a lot as well. So if you try and sort of outgun an agent on the knowledge of the area, product knowledge, even if you do know more than them, just maybe keep that on the DL. And they don't. Yeah, although they'll give you comparables, the property they're selling is right in front of them, and they'll know roughly where it sits anyway. So you can sort of throw one or two and say, "Here's that one was there. I see value around that one. Is that going to buy the property today based on my terms as well?" And introduce terms as much as you can, because you can often secure a deal for under 5 or 10. If you're offering 60 or 70K under, probably not going to get it done unless you've got ridiculous terms. But yeah, if you're 5 or 10K off the mark, terms may win it for you as well.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, you have that terms conversation around what they want. And that's a really important thing that I see a lot of investors think that everyone wants a short settlement. No, always ask, what are the settlement terms the vendor are looking for? That's going to give you ammunition to say, well, actually, I don't care. The other thing 90 days. Well, if they may want 90 days. Or they may not care, and you actually want 90 days, because if you're spending $700,000 on a deal and you cannot own it, you can have the rights for it, but not actually own it for X amount of 60 days, 90 days. That's saving you a couple of grand by not owning the property, because it's going to be negatively geared. So that's another consideration of like, cool, actually, I want a 90-day settlement. If they're not fussed, can we get away with a 90-day settlement? Yeah, they don't care. The further out that you get for that settlement period becomes a bit difficult, because the agent's not getting paid until it settles. So they're more interested in the 30 to 60 day settlement ones. So yeah, I would test the agent and see, great, well, look, I've got an offer here of 469,000. Let's get it rock and rolling. Is this going to do it? Because I guess my job is what I'm trying to do here is to move as fast as possible, because I'm getting a little bit of pressure from the other agent. How can we get to this point as quickly as possible? Give
Junior, we're giving Junior a bit of a mentoring session. These are the kind of conversation we have in our level up as well. So he said terms. What's pretty appealing terms to get a deal done? And when I ask that question, like, what terms is a vendor after? Most of the time the agent says, they just want a standard sort of sale. Like, I'm talking probably 50 to 60% of the time. I mean, I don't know the exact. I haven't got the stats on that, Joe. If you got the stats on, if you're tracking that and if you've got AI to synthesize that for you, bring it up. I'm sure you don't, but no. So most of the time, the agents are going to say, standard sort of in WA 2121 or standard 42 days or so kind of settlement. 14 days, pest and building finance in Queensland. Some agents will push for 7 days. So they won't give you an answer most of the time on that. It's only like there's no kind of silver bullet on that. Most of the time they'll just be like, they won't have considered it. But if it's an owner occupier, you can almost plant that seed in the agent's head, because ultimately the agent just wants to get the deal done. And if the vendor's like, no, we need to go and buy somewhere else, just say, hey, look, I'll put it out there on the table. You said there's no terms, but that matter. But if it's owner occupied, does the vendor need to go and buy somewhere else? If they do, I can write that into the contract that we can settle anywhere between 30 and 90 days.
Yeah, that's very true. Someone, Kushal, jumped up there saying my settlement terms are always 30 days up to 180. And then Karen, you jumped in with 12 months, which is always preferred when you're doing incredible
to get the DA done.
Yeah, have the rights to own it, but not not paying for it is very nice.
Should we crack on to our second sponsor, Joe, and then we promised that we would reveal one or two things about negotiating in the pest and building. So, and then we'll go to Q&A. So why don't we run to that? I'm sure you've got heaps of tips you haven't shared, but we'll have to cut it short tonight, unfortunately.
Oh, Jeff, I wish there was 3 investing books that covered everything property.
Oh, Joe, there is. Steve has 3 books now.
That I do, guys. I've got 3 books now. You probably don't even have to follow this group anymore. Just kidding. You want to keep seeing and hearing from me, of course, so stay involved. But in all seriousness, if you want to get the full picture of investing, residential, commercial, and development, these 3 books have you covered for the fundamentals. For OzProp members, here's the best part. I'm giving these books to you for free. Just cover the postage and I'll send them right to your door. Go to policyproperty.com or click the link below and get your copies today. You can also get all my spreadsheets, checklists, and resources free on my website. Happy reading, gang.
That ad just feels so short now. Yeah, no. But yeah, that's great. I didn't. Now we're back and we have to actually present. So Joe, we promised negotiating the pest and building. How does that sort of give us the cliff notes? Because this is kind of a little bit of a secret sauce, but give us some insight as to how that can potentially work in your favor and negotiate.
Well, I mean, this is one of the things that people don't think about for their negotiation. So the way it works is, I'm going to go back to what we were talking about at the outset when it comes to control and who has what, where, and when. So going back to this, right, there are 3 stages. There's the offer stage, there's the exchange stage, and there's the unconditional stage. So up until the unconditional stage, you have control because you have the ball in your court. Once the property goes unconditional, what does that mean? Unconditional means there's no conditions. So when you exchange, you're going into a conditional contract that is conditional to the terms that you've set out there. And those conditions are generally a 2-day cooling off period, a 14-day pest and building, so we can make sure that it's structurally okay, and a 14-day finance clause, and then a 30-day settlement. But that's not really—
sounds like a South Australia one, is it? Maybe. 14,
yeah, this is there's 2 days, whatever. You can have it 5 days for. We've got we outlay every single state and the different terms and different clauses, cheat sheet, so you can know each state. Yeah, so what you can do is we do a 14-day pest and building inspection. So how do you think about that? Well, you can actually negotiate the problems, right? So the way it works is you do a pest and building inspection, and there's going to be things on there that that you weren't aware of, and you can absolutely negotiate them if you have it structured correctly in your pest and building clause. So do make sure that when you speak with your conveyancer, they're going to give you the breakdown of, yes, the key date is this. There is a pest and building clause in there, but is it the pest and building that allows me to pull out on the deal? So very, very important that you ask that question, because in Victoria, for instance, there's 2 clauses. There is the one that allows you to pull out, and there's the one that doesn't allow you to pull out. In Victoria, you can't pull out on a finance clause if you just want to. In Queensland, it's a little bit easier to pull out under a finance clause and a pest and building clause, because you don't have to show them. Maybe I can't say stuff like that, but you may not have to show them.
Generally, you probably don't need to, and in most situations,
yeah. So yes, So there's an opportunity there for you to be able to get a reduction on that pest and building clause if you find issues.
Yeah, and typically, I mean, we're maybe sharing a little bit not too much, but let's kind of go down a little bit that path, because otherwise I feel that's so Joe, how do you typically we've spoken about this anyway, so it's not like it's not something we haven't discussed in public, but the way I sort of like to look at this is I say, okay, great, what did the pest and building pick up? and what is it going to cost me? And that's where your conversation with your pest and building inspector and getting that great pest and building inspector is absolutely vital, because if you're able to do that, then you can sort of get that person to recommend or give you a rough ballpark, at least. And I would always get a tradie, particularly where it's for the bigger items, to make sure that they can give you a proper quote, a trusted sort of quote as well, not just somebody who's writing something on the back of a napkin. Get that idea, and then that gives you the leverage you need to negotiate. Because if you're just saying, oh yeah, I need to do a bathroom reno, that's 25K. Give me 10K off 15K off to do that bathroom reno. It's like, okay, well, if the agent calls you on it, like, where is the evidence? Or if you need to supply that, sometimes they won't, because they'll know anyway. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Joe, and the process?
Yeah, I guess when it comes to pest and buildings, the way it works is you haven't seen a pest and building report. You probably haven't seen 1,000 of them, right? So when you see them, they are going to be very aggressive. So don't get too upset about that. When you're choosing a pest and building inspector, one of the most important things to do with them before you sign up to them is, hey, can I chat with the inspector after they've done the report? Because those reports have a whole heap of scary legal stuff in there that says this whole place is falling down, blah, blah, blah. So when you get the pest and building report, just know that, but try and have the conversation with the inspector, and that's where you're going to get the real information. These guys or girls are pretty much ex-builders, and they're like, oh, I don't like building anymore. It's too heavy for me. I'm going to do inspecting instead. So some of the things that you should expect on a pest and building in Australia on properties that are built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s is there may be a high moisture reading behind the wall of a shower. So that's one thing to kind of think about. In 1996, waterproofing wasn't mandated. So all they had there was grout. Grout is fibrous, and over 20 to 30 years, it slowly lets water in, right? So that's normal. So expect to see that. What if it's a super high reading? One of two things. One, there's a burst pipe in behind and you need to do a pressure test and make sure it's okay. If it's just a low reading, then it just means you need to do a regrout, which is about $1,200 to $1,800.
The other thing, get away with $800.
Oh, it's the worst job in the world, by the way. If we had our house, my PPOR regrouted, and it was terrible. Like, it's a guy that has to grind out all the grout in between. He's just got a grinder there for hours. It was only $1,800. Anyway, the gutters may not be connected to the stormwater pipes. Expect that. Another thing that wasn't in the building code but now is required. So when you've got a 90s build, don't try and negotiate that type of thing, right? Unless the water is falling and pooling and the house is starting to tilt, then maybe you've got some structural issues. You probably get out of there. Asbestos, that freaks a lot of people out. It's absolutely normal in WA, South Australia. It's in most eaves in properties.
Wollongong properties, like coast, pretty much any fiber kind of properties that were built, basically. Yeah. Kind of in the 70s.
It's not 80s. A major concern. Just leave it alone. If it's all cracked up and super fibrous and looking pretty dodgy, you need to factor in a removalist, but actually get quotes, because it's not really that bad. It's not as costly to get rid of it as you might think. But yeah, essentially the pest and building, you get it reviewed, you then itemize every single problem, and you then quantify it. Oh, am I still sharing my screen? Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I thought I was like, oh, it's kind of it's sort of soothing to see that. I like this line of like, David, you're asking some great questions, mate. So thanks for asking this. You've been with us for many years now, but he said, any thoughts on snagging property at a bargain price because other buyers are uneducated or afraid of a defect? I mean, these days you can still do it. I think it's not so much necessarily about the condition of the property. Yes, that can help. But a lot of people these days are starting to get a little bit more comfortable. But then some people will shy away because it's just effort, and you need to organizing trades is still pretty bloody annoying. Like, we haven't trying to get trades out for quotes. So yes, it can be an opportunity. I find the biggest opportunity is where the agent doesn't sell a lot in the area. And then you can sort of say, okay, great. Well, they may not know their product so well, and they may be struggling to sell that deal, even in a hotter market. because they're like, oh, well, they don't know how to sort of negotiate on, or they're just not as well versed. But what are your thoughts on this, Joe?
Yeah. If you are a tradesperson and know, and you see in the building and pest that there's termites in the property, and actually another thing to mention, if a real estate agent is putting pressure on you to not get a pest and building inspection, massive red flag. Massive red flag. So do be aware of that. But yeah, absolutely. If you know that there is termite damage in the beams, but they're actually none of the structural beams, and you understand and an expert of those things, it's going to scare off a lot of people, and you really can lowball and push hard in the negotiation. Another thing that you can do in a negotiation is not like, if you're a property developer, you don't need to tell the vendor that you're a property developer and going to knock the house down, and you don't actually care what it's worth. So, when I'm looking at development deals, I'm going to knock a house down, I still do a pest and building, and I still push back and negotiate because I want a discount. So what are we talking about here with all of these discounts and stuff? The biggest negotiation that I've ever gotten is $40,000 off of a purchase price because the property had some stumping issues. How much were those stumping issues to fix? $6,000. We then made a massive deal and said we were pulling out of the deal. And what happened was the property was on the market. Oh, actually, another little top tip. You guys are getting all the juice today. Another top tip is when the property has been on the market, don't do the pest and building. You've got 14 days to do it. Don't do it the next day or the day after. Not that you can organize a pest and building inspector that quickly. Now, again, state dependent, because in South Australia, there's a 2-day cooling off period. Don't put an offer with a pest and building clause because you can do the pest and building during the 2-day cooling off period. But anyway, if you got a 14-day pest and building clause, try and get the pest and building inspection towards the tail end of that. Why are we doing that? Because we're reducing the buyer demand for this property. There is a lot less interest. The agent you have 13 days or 12 days of an opportunity of that pest and building guy. Agent to lose all the other offers. So when you push back to negotiate and say, hey, Mr. Agent, just letting you know, we did the pest and building inspection and there's a lot of stuff that we weren't aware of, unfortunately. I'm really keen to make this deal happen and push through. But unfortunately, we're going to have to, the only way that I'm able to make this deal work, like, we're investors, we're not emotional about this. I really want to keep this deal together, and I'm going to need your help on that. The pest and building has shown this issue, this issue, this issue, this issue. That's going to cost us about $40,000 to fix, unfortunately. Now, I understand we're buying an older property, but I'm not asking for $40,000 off. I'm asking for $30,000 off as a way to kind of meet in the middle with the vendor here, because this isn't what we signed up for. We didn't know that the stumping issue was there. We didn't know that the gutters were completely rotted out. There's $5,000 there. The new fence is going to cost blah blah blah, and you build up the price. Then what you have to do is email that with the pest and building report and send the email to the agent, because the agent will then screenshot that and say, these guys aren't being unrealistic. These are the problems that we have. They didn't identify them in the inspection, and they are asking for a 30.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to identify that. I mean, if you're a proper builder, you probably could, but
no, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, this is gonna, and then the vendor is then the agent is then selling the vendor as well. And he's like, look, to be honest, there's no more buyers. Like, we've got to relist this, and then to be honest, the next person's going to find these things when they do the pest and building, and you're going to be stuck with that. So what do you want to do?
Yeah. I saw in that a property across the road from my aunt's place, and it had been on the market for 6 months, and it finally went under contract, and it's been under contract for 3 or 4 weeks. And Mum's like, why hasn't it been sold yet? And I said, well, they've identified significant issues, because they've done a reno on this property. So I think it's probably roof issues, and they're still going back and forward. And to you, exactly your point, it's like, yes, they could sort of crash the deal, or they could just say, no, we're not going to give you a discount. But if they do that, the next person comes along, and that's been on the market for 3 or 6 months. So are you going to take the risk with the next person who's going to come up with exactly the same thing? And that we may not get another offer similar. So that's the kind of, depending on the heat of the market, like in a Perth of 2022, or a Townsville of 2024, or a Adelaide of 2023, those things, are going to be harder to. You can still definitely ask, but yeah, the I suppose the heat or the how quickly things are moving in a market can dictate. I mean, I don't know. That's what I found, Joe. But have you found that you can't necessarily negotiate as hard in a hotter market, or you've been able to get some good discounts regardless of market heat?
No, well, it all comes down to what's the value of the property, what does the agent believe the worth is, and what does the vendor believe the worth is, which is what you're trying to feel out. One of the best things that you can find is an agent that's from out of town, because they're like, oh yeah, I know that area, and property prices. I remember when I last looked, 3 years ago, they were at like 550. They're probably this is probably at 600 now, and it's like 620. Perfect, great. Oh, you want 600? Great. Here's the money. Here's 600, because I know that I'm happy to take that deal. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I've got a 600 here, Mr. Vendor. You need to move fast. So it does depend. It depends on how to do it. You can then lowball and get a 580, and he's going to be like, oh, I'm not so interested in 580. Then you lose the deal.
How about 585 or 590? Does that work for you? Like, I'm being reasonable here. I see value at 580. I'm gonna have to speak to my whatever. This is an interesting one from Marcy. What's the deal breaker aside of structural integrity? What's the worst thing that you would avoid? For me, I would probably say like termites, where it's clearly gotten into, because you just don't, that's just going to keep, you don't know how much that could cost you, tens of thousands, like even up to 100,000 plus, like termite issues. That's probably the thing that scares me the most, where it's clear termite damage and where they've gotten into all the beams and all that sort of stuff. Is that what scares you the most, Joe?
Yeah. Termites definitely do it for me.
One
thing to mention is there's in Queensland, there are termites in the yard, right? So expect to find that, especially in damp areas. So do expect to see termites on the outside. But if you find termites on the inside of the structural house, like sometimes they're in the garage and the garage is just a little shack thing, great, that's fine. But has the house had a termite treatment in it?
And a barrier as well.
Yeah, termite barrier.
And is that current? Like how long ago was it done? Because if it's over 3 to 5 years, you probably start to say, well, maybe it's not going to be that effective. Yeah, there are any ones that really, like there's one I remember where you were trying to crack a deal down in, this is ages ago anyway, so I'm not revealing locations. I won't reveal the suburb. So in the Geelong area, I don't know if you remember it, where our property manager down there, Sophie, went and looked at that one where we thought it was a cracker. And for the price it was, but then you looked at it, it was going to cost like 60 to 70 at least, where you had to reconnect the house. It was kind of like you had to go in and underpin it and sort of reinforce all that sort of stuff. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember that one. I was like, you were going to convert it from a 2 into 3. And I just said, we just said, nah, it's not, it's too much risk. Buying for yourself, maybe you take it on, but buying for somebody else, maybe not. That's something that anything.
I was trying to, actually here it is here, I think. Yeah, cool. So we have, so in the, I don't want to make this as a bloody pitch fest, but in the, in the level up property course, we have like examples of what is an acceptable, like what is, like when you ask what is a hell no, this is a hell no. Look at these are structural beams on the roof, and they've reinforced the beams with some dodgy wood and kept up the old ones, and it's literally the new, that's a new piece of beam. This here is new. So yeah, we go through like what is a good and acceptable report and what is not, like what is okay. Is that an asbestos roof? Like these crackings, absolutely fine. So this like if you see these cracks and the paste hasn't been painted for years, that's a normal thing to see. So don't get too scared or upset about that. Water coming out of here, that's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. What else? This one then just became a hell no very, very quickly because of the termites. What we then do in this, I share a call that I had with the Pest and Building and going through, hey, what would it cost to fix this? What would it cost to fix that? Trying to get an understanding of estimated costs before I chat with the trades. Then you're kind of good to go. But yes, when you find termites inside, the way it works with Pest and Building inspections, every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached to it. This deal, if you're paying like Elijah said, hey, I've got this deal for $500,000. And to be honest, I think it's overvalued at 500. Like 500 is the absolute max walkaway. Great. Well, that pest and building better be bloody clean as, because if there's $20,000 worth of works, I need to get paid that $20,000 worth of works. Otherwise, I'm just better off buying another one. So it all just comes back to that. This is the value of the property. This is why I need a discount. And this is why you're going to give me one. And then like, God, you're right. Yeah.
I just wanted to bring this one up in terms of, this takes us back a little bit to the negotiation piece before we've even got it under offer. I personally don't think it's I see people saying I'll offer like $688,832, and I'm like, I don't know, like it probably works maybe, but I just like fairly round numbers. So maybe something like if you start offering 577,500, that could be sort of a deal breaker, rather than somebody offering sort of 575,000. You might sort of secure it based on that. Or if you offer 575, 100 or something. I don't think it's, if you're relying on that to get the deal done, I mean, I don't know. Yes, it could get you over the line, but I don't see that there's a major advantage in that. What do you think, Joe? Disagree with me, maybe. Yeah.
In terms of psychology, I don't think it has. I think it is important. Like what you just said there. Oh, I'm going to offer I see value at 599,000. So you believe you're not willing to pay 600. You're not willing to pay 600,000. The problem is vendors. Vendors are just like normal everyday people. I'm not going to sell the place unless it's $600,000. Great. Then if you're at 599, go to 600. The other thing is what happens in some markets where they have a specific process, right? South Australia, you keep bringing up South Australia. Karen, you're in this session, and you remind me of South Australia all the time.
No, that's different, Karen. This is Karen Povey, mate. She's from Victoria. You're thinking of Karen.
Sorry, Karen. Well, yes, that's right. Yeah, sorry, Karen. Mixing you up. You know, but yeah, sorry. In South Australia, they have a very strict process. Some agents where it's like, great, we have advertised it Thursday, we have the open on Saturday, we close offers on Tuesday. And if you're not across what the actual final number is, and you believe the value is 600, I would then try and push it as much as I can to say, look, I'm not going to lose this over $1,000. I'll say 601. Or if you believe it to be 605, great, I'm going to go 606, 500. That's when I would start to use that, because what will happen is there'll be tiers of buyers. A first home buyer is going to say, look, 500 is my number. That's it. 500 and 500, 505 is great. Just try and add an extra 1,000 if you can. But if it's not worth it, it's not worth it, right? You don't want to add 1,000 when all the other offers are at 450. So, you don't want to overpay.
Yeah, nice, man. I think unless there's any burning questions that have come up, I think we're at the hour 30. Mate, I just want to say this has been a fun session to present to everybody. And we've been getting a lot more reviews on Spotify. So, because I want to get into many more people's earbuds just to get the value out there. So I know we've helped you negotiate a lot quicker and save tens of thousands potentially in deals, and even pest and building as well. As you can sort of see, you start to stack that sort of each time you sort of do it, and you have those. Watch this session back again and again and sort of take notes. We may even need to do some posts on this, of course. But I want to say, if you've gotten value from the session, which I know you have, jump on Spotify, give us a rating, preferably 5 stars. We're up to 4.5 stars, Joe, mate. We're at a couple of weeks ago 4.3. So people are seeming to be liking us. So they're giving us, so jump on there now. And I've noticed Junior's asked another question. So this will be the last question, but jump on Spotify, team. Junior said, you do your pest and building and ask this. And do you guys ever have luck with early access to property to fix all the issues before settlement? My answer to that, my understanding is not understanding, but what I've had, I haven't necessarily, you'll potentially get the trades in there to sort of measure up everything and then sort of can start as soon as it settles. I personally haven't had any luck getting them to start any sort of works prior. And the reason being, and Joe, you may have had luck, mate. You've done $100 million plus of deals. So maybe you've done a deal there, but typically the vendor doesn't like it, because even if you're unconditional, if for whatever reason, there's something that doesn't settle, until it's settled, it's not done. So That's my kind of mindset. And if you go start putting walls up and all that sort of jazz, yes, it adds some value, but maybe it doesn't add value. So what are your thoughts? Have you ever been given access to start works prior to settlement?
Well, one thing to mention, Junior, is you can renegotiate. So I said I want a discount of $30,000. You can literally, today we did a negotiation. We don't actually want a discount. I just want you to do all the little bits and pieces, like screw the doorknob on, add a new dishwasher, and then clean up the yard, and then fix the back fence. So all of that, we're like, I don't want $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. I don't want anything. You just need to fix that. Like, that's fine. We're happy to accept that. And then they need to fix that prior to settlement. So yeah, getting access to do works is a bit of a challenge because there's insurance, and it's just a bit tough.
Risk.
So it's just a risk for the vendor.
What's the benefit to the vendor is what I kind of ask myself in any kind of situation. Like, why would they sort of offer you that ability to access? But no, it's a good question. It would be nice because then you could sort of go in, get the reno all done, get the tenant in day one if you need to any roads. Like that West Melbourne
killer session, mate. Absolute killer session. Thank you very much. If you guys got value out of it, great. Congratulations. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. And let's go buy a property.
How do we find out more about Oz Property? You go and jump on Level Up, book a call. We've still got a few golden tickets, but they're running out fast, team. So jump on that.
Level Up Property. Exactly. You want to learn the exact process. You want to see how to negotiate, what the actual scripts are, what that email needs to look like so that you can get access to the deals. Sign up to the Level Up course. It's pretty easy. You get money.
Junior saying, can't believe on a day we walked away on a deal, session came up at the right time. Mate, it's like the universe is telling you, Junior. Oz Property, here we go. Okay, everybody, we'll catch you next week, and thanks for tuning in. Let's go negotiate a property, Joe.
Catch you guys. Stay well.
I got in there.